how far have you gone in order to close a deal?
I love this question.
It's actually a beautiful question. I've made a lot of mistakes over the years with could-be ego, where you try to stay with it and you don't let go. And one of the things that we've talked about our sales team about is getting to the no. Really seems counterintuitive again, right? Getting to the no. But if you're in a deal, ask the right questions and get to a point where it's better to get out early rather than spend a lot of cycles going deep down. And so I think asking the right questions. But for me, I remember I spent probably a year and a half on the deal. It was a really, really large deal. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I didn't ask the right questions, and I was getting what the other two competitors that were in the business as well were probably getting the same answers. And I don't think any of us really got to what the real objection was. And so I think a year and a half and it was a big deal that I didn't win. And I think it's because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't probe correctly. But over time, you learn these things, right? Yeah.
Well, and the other great thing about getting to the no, if you get to a no, what it means is you save all of your time to work with the people to get to a yes. The worst thing you can do is come in second place because you spent as much time to win the deal, but you lost the deal.
Let's say you've lost a deal to a competitor. Would you come back with a lower price?
We've done some research, and most deals, I believe it's like 74%, you don't lose on price. The reality is you probably didn't provide the right solutions or ask the right questions. So the answer is no, we don't deep dive in price. And in fact, I mean, we're actually a premium product and a premium service. So that's one of the things that differentiates us. So if we do ever did drive down in price, it really affects who we are. I will say this as a former media planner many years ago at Saatchi & Saatchi. We were trained as a buyer to continue to ask for a lower price until a seller said no.
There's a difference between an outstanding sales manager versus outstanding sellers. And oftentimes, it is there's an assumption that when someone's an outstanding seller, they should just manage a bunch of sellers. When in fact, they're an outstanding seller. Let them sell. And I don't know if you could speak to that.
No, that's perfect. That's right. And it's real interesting. I think if people in your audience think about their best managers, they probably were not the best sellers, but they were the best people with other people in managing and understanding how to motivate people.
LinkedIn, you said 5 startups, 4 exits. How do you choose the companies to work for?
My answer is going to be different today than it was 10 to 15 years ago. So let me talk about 10 to 15 years ago. Number one was business model. Number two is the financing. And for me, number three is the CEO. So 10 or 15 years ago, I was more interested in terms of the business model in a company with a networking effect. So I worked for eBay and Facebook. Those are good examples of networking effect. Businesses where they could grow just by connecting people, so the marketing costs weren't high. Very low friction, and they'd grow on their own. Today I'm interested in SaaS businesses. So I think the networking piece is a little bit harder, and SaaS is growing pretty significantly. We're a SaaS platform. Amazon Web Services is interesting, but those types of businesses. The second piece I talked about in terms of financing, so 15 years ago, I went to companies with tier 1 or tier 2 VCs. That would be Andreessen Horowitz, it would be Benchmark, it would be Sequoia Capital. Because those are companies that are getting the first look at the best companies, and they've also got a portfolio of companies, and they've got contacts that actually can make the company more successful. So companies getting money from those tier 1 and tier 2 VCs was extremely important. And today, I look at profitable companies, or companies that are on the path to profitability. So Cochaba's is a profitable company, right? I mean, Charles and I have known each other for years, but today, when you think about WeWork, you think about Lyft, you think about Uber, those are companies that are they're bleeding money, right? And so the idea is go to companies today that have a path to profitability or profitable. And then thirdly, around the CEO, super important, a CEO that's done it before. Because the first time CEO, and Charles had mentioned this early on, they go through some growing pains and some mistakes, including like not understanding how to spend money and do other things like that. But they go through that experience. It's just like a young salesperson versus a salesperson that's had a lot more experiences. And so with Charles, he's had a number of successful companies. So when you think about a SaaS model, you think about a profitable company, you think about a CEO who's done it before, those three things, then you know the probability of building long-term profitable company is really, really super high.
Then why don't we get into hiring? Okay, who was your best hire?
So I'm going to say there's been a lot of hires. I'm going to give you a specific example. I don't want my inbox to be filled when I get back to my desk. So I'm going to give you an example of a hire, and actually you know this person. As I tell the quick story, Charles will know who it is. I won't say the name, but about 15 years ago, I was running an ad sales organization.
Great story.
I agreed to see a young person, about 24 years old at the time, who had no experience. I did it as a favor to my friend. Now, the person I was interviewing was selling frozen meat in the afternoon, and he was a bartender in the evenings. But I did it as a favor. So about 2 weeks later, he came in. He was supposed to have a half-an-hour meeting. We kept going. We kept having this conversation. Really, really great young person. And at about minute 55 of a 60-minute meeting, I said, well, thank you. Appreciate your time. That's it. And he was quiet for about 10 seconds, and he looked at me. And he said, well? I said, well, what? He said, did I get the job? I said, no, you didn't get the job. He goes, why not? I said, well, number one, I don't have it in the budget. And number two, you have no experience. And this is good for people who are watching this in terms of becoming sellers. And he was quiet for another 10 or 15 seconds, and he said, I'll work for free. I said, what do you mean you work for free? Now, he's answered the objection already around no budget. I said, where are you going to sleep? You live in Marin. He said, I have an uncle here. I'll sleep on his couch. So here's somebody who he got the no. In real time, he thought of a solution. And I thought it was really interesting. And so I said to him, okay, you're hired. Come in on Monday. This is a true story. We both know that. We both know him. And for 3 months, he came in every single day, and he worked really hard. For free? For free. Never said anything, never complained. Then on the 4th month, we were walking by each other and said, hey, starting Monday.
You were supposed to say the name?
Thank you. Starting Monday, you'll get a check. And he's turned out to be a phenomenal seller, but a lot of those characteristics that were there then about somebody who really wanted the job, they were persistent, they thought of a solution during real time during the conversation that made sense, and we saw his intellectual capacity, we saw how well he worked cross-functionally with other team members, and how he fit in culturally, very important as well. You've got to take some risk, and it's okay to be creative, do something a little bit different, and take a risk. And I think at the end of the day, you show that you're different. Yeah. Same thing in any sales. Even if you're selling your product, you show you're different, you're more likely to have a positive outcome.
That's a great story. Any books you recommend?
Well, before I say that, I want to say that your audience might appreciate this. When you think about what's important in life, I think it's asking grandparents or people who are in their 80s or 90s and looking back. So when we talk about books, I do want to say one thing that I've learned is if I really want to find out what's important, to ask people that have lived a good life, and in looking back what they think is important and what they value. I read a New York Times bestseller last week, Barbarian Days, and really about it's about a surfer, but it's not really about surfing. It's about a journey of somebody who is passionate about something, and he writes about his journey and all the experiences he has along that path. Leadership by John Wooden, who is he won about 11 NCAA basketball titles back in the 60s and 70s. And he talks about things that we value at Coachaba again, and that's teamwork, determination, integrity, those types of things. And he's really somebody that if people want to emulate in terms of being a good leader and what's important and how to get positive outcomes from the people you lead, I think that's an excellent.
Okay. Thank you. Charles, do you listen to any podcasts or any YouTube channels or movies?
Big fan of Scott Galloway's podcast. I think it's really fun. He's a professor, and he's very outspoken about the breakup of Facebook and Google. He is unapologetically authentic, and I like that about him.
He is really great. Folks, you got to look at him and see his stuff, and he's incredibly straightforward in a way that's entertaining. Okay. But he uses data to support it. Really great.
I like the way he uses data. Yeah. He just intertwines it. Great. Really value it.
All right. Yeah, that was my last question. Hope you enjoy your time in Seoul.
Thank you for having us, June.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.